Everyone, welcome to the last session of Creative Theory. I can't believe that we are in week 12. It's been quite an exciting journey. The progress that you've made over the last few weeks has been absolutely fantastic. Just thought I'd start this session by providing a couple of quick updates. So first of all, the assignment designing your PS commute feedback is now available on Canvas. When you have a minute, please go through the feedback and do connect if you have any questions in that regard. I'm in the process of moderating the other assignment that was due, I believe, a week and a half ago. That feedback should be coming your way very soon. So again, keep an eye on your Canvas account, as I believe I will be releasing those grades in the next day or so. Finally, as for each and every session, there will be an opportunity later on to connect and go through a bit of a Q&A. So if you're still working through the last assignment and want to clarify anything in that regard, by all means, wait until the end of the session and we'll take on any questions that you may have. So let's look at today's agenda. We're going to be starting by looking at a few of the submissions received for that actual commute. I've selected 3 projects in particular with a view of sharing with you all what some of your peers did as part of a response to that assignment brief. I'll also, through today's session, encourage you to participate in a self-reflection activity just to get a sense of where you're at with your journey. We've covered quite a lot of material throughout this trimester in this subject, starting with creative thinking, I should say, design thinking and its application for very complex brief. That followed through with looking at creativity as a whole, applying creativity in order to solve, again, complex brief. And finally, we looked at design principles and elements within the context of architecture and interior design, all that in 11 weeks. So I have to say, having looked at all your submissions so far, I'm personally extremely pleased with the caliber of work that you've produced and can't wait to see you apply those principles in future trimesters and future subjects. So more on that again in your individual feedback, so keep an eye on your Canvas account for those. Now, as part of the reflection, let's get straight into that before actually looking at some of your peers' work. This is an individual activity. Feel free to connect with me though if you want to brainstorm and get the most out of it. In that particular context, I would like to encourage you all to consider the 6 elements captured here whilst reflecting on your journey so far for creative theory. Think about your research skills. Think about your ability to think creatively, your technical skills, whether this is related to drawing as an example or presenting. For those that are studying on campus, something that you probably didn't know is all your peers that are studying online had to put a presentation with a voiceover as part of designing that commute to not only communicate their ideas, but also capture literally everything that they've worked on. And talking about technical skills, some of them actually had to really learn whilst doing and experiment with the technology in order to achieve the desired outcome. Kate, was that something that you were used to doing before? Is that something that you had a go at and kind of were on the verge of hoping for the best and achieve what you've achieved? What was your actual?
Yeah, definitely. I think elements of it I'd worked on before, obviously when I was at university prior, but I think a lot of it, to be honest, it was the first time for me and is the first time studying online. So getting used to having to obviously do the reports and then do the presentations, and then to be honest, I had not used PowerPoint. I can't even tell you how many years to then have to record the narration and listen it back and edit it and everything. Yeah, it was something new to learn, but I actually found it really enjoyable, and the whole process along the way, not only in this unit but in all the units, to be thrown in the deep end and to have to figure out has, I think, made me feel a lot happier about like where I am and like what I'm doing. And I even said to my partner the other day, like, I'm feeling like I'm accomplishing something, which is really great. So yeah, I think probably anyone that's been studying online the same as me, I would hope is feeling the same way.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And Catherine, what was your experience putting the presentation together, especially the voiceover and whatnot?
I didn't find it too bad. It was a bit daunting at the start, but once got the hang of it and worked out where all the functionality was, it was pretty good. And I think I'd rather do that than stand up in front of my class, to be honest.
Fair enough. Taylor, you actually are studying face-to-face. However, you presented digitally. How was that experience for you?
I found it quite easy to work out how to record on Windows PowerPoint. I just followed the links that you gave if we needed to. So,
fantastic. And in comparison to Catherine, do you see yourself, more comfortable in a face-to-face environment, or kind of, going through PowerPoint or any software, adding a voice over to a presentation?
Well, usually I'm used to doing the face-to-face sort of presentations. I did find it a little bit more daunting to do it recorded, but I'm not against it, and I definitely use it again if I needed to. So,
fantastic. Thanks for sharing. The other things I want you all to take in consideration would be around time management. I'm sure that for most of you, it was a bit of a shock when you realized that all the last assignments across the board were due in week 12. I'm sure that there's been a lot of late nights, a lot of very frustrating moments, a lot of compromise. Is there any sort of takeaway regarding time management? And, is there anyone here that may want to share? Mercy, perhaps?
Yeah, I know for me, next time, with the next trimester, I'm definitely going to look at the assignments and look at what ones can I actually get started on. So I'm doing an assignment a week, because I think if you manage it that way, so you're doing an assignment a week, then it won't all bottleneck towards the end.
Yeah, that's a great point. Does anyone else relate to that?
Yeah, I've definitely found, especially obviously because I'm studying full-time, but working as well. Just when it got really hectic at work on certain weeks, I found it really difficult, obviously coming to lectures and everything, but also with the assignments, getting them done. So definitely similar to what Mercy said, I think looking well and truly in advance of what's coming up, and then, just knocking off week by week is definitely the best way to do it.
Right. Fantastic. And your experience may differ to others. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is to raise your awareness on what's working for you and what's not, right? It's your first trimester. Let's remind ourselves about that. You have another 24 months, give or take, to go in order to complete your bachelor. So it's not a race. Let's make sure that we take every opportunity here to reflect and look at how we can improve. And at the end of the day, this is what today's session is all about. Now, thinking about those 6 components, what I would like to encourage you to do is to document those and think about one or more areas that you may want to improve ahead of the next trimester. You can look at it by developing SMART goals. So SMART here stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely, to help you stick true to what you're setting yourself to achieve. So as an example, You can look at any of those points. We've talked about time management here, and go ahead and experiment using a different strategy, and reflect again in future trimesters and say, well, did that work? Did I achieve the things I believed I was going to achieve, and so forth? And if you were to set yourself some goals, try to be as specific as possible. Try to measure whether you managed to move the needle or not. Try to see whether working on assignments every single week is actually realistic, and go back 12 weeks from now and reflect again on your experience. Here's an example here on the screen, and it could be for literally anything. One of the things that I know a lot of people struggled with was drawing. Elements of orthographic projections, 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, does not come easy. That's an area that you may want to further explore. Again, set yourself those goals, connect with myself, connect with your peers, and together, let's try to address and achieve those accordingly. Now, if anyone actually wants to run those goals past me, or engage in a conversation around those, I'd be more than happy to. Please do connect. Let's talk about those. Let's talk about what you may want to improve on further down the track, and let's make sure that we are both accountable in that process, right? That being said, I want to share with you a few assignments that your peers worked on and submitted. I know that some of you will have to leave very soon. Please do watch the recording because afterwards I'm going to be sharing some additional resources that relates to this subject in particular, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to, if you have some free time over the break, engage with some of the material. So I'm going to change to a different window and share with you one submission, starting with perhaps this one here. Can you see my screen? Perfect. Now, Danielle is an on-campus student, and part of the reason why I'm sharing this presentation with you all is she's created everything using a tool called Prezi. You heard of that before? It's a great tool. It's free, and it allows you to engage with your audience in quite an interactive way. Essentially, going through the presentation, you can upload it online, and you can basically access it from any sort of device, whether it's your computer, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, or even your smartphone, if there's a need for that. Only thing you require is an internet connection. So something to take in consideration. You can make a copy of a presentation and save it to your desktop. That said, you may not be able to do that using the free version of the platform. So let's have a look at how it works. So I'm going to maximize my screen here. I'm hoping that you can still see the presentation. And you notice that in comparison to PowerPoint or any other software, you only have two icons here, one to go forward and one to go backwards. The way that Prezi works is your presentation will be basically on one big canvas, and through those actual arrows, you'll be navigating through the topics and content of the presentation itself. Now, in her actual case, she decided to basically capture the various stages of her project, and through her presentation, elaborate on each and every one of those. She touched on the problem itself. She went and elaborated on the scope. She captured her goals. And slowly but surely, she told the story about the problem that the client was facing, and most importantly, how she decided to go ahead and tackle those issues. In here, she captured the main concerns that she gathered through her research. All her finding was documented in a consistent manner. That was a way for her to talk about each and every of those points and finally transition to the next stage of the model. Now, a couple of things to take into consideration here. Notice that at the bottom of the screen, you have some sort of a timeline that gives you a sense of where you're in the presentation. That's something that can come in extremely handy for the person presenting, just to visually get a sense of how far he or she is in that presentation itself. Similar things can be achieved using PowerPoint or Adobe Acrobat Pro as an example, with a representation of the thumbnail slides and whatnot. In PowerPoint, you have an indication of time. So if I'm not mistaken, if you go through a presentation in PowerPoint, it will give you, I guess, some sort of a countdown and, you know, all those fancy sort of features to make sure that you stay on track and so forth. Now, what Danielle decided to do here is to embed different sort of videos within her presentation itself. So check this out. She started talking about a specific idea. She started talking about the benefits of that idea. And straight away, she went into YouTube and started to demonstrate through the video what she was talking about. And she used that same technique again and again and again to convey a variety of concepts, not just by talking about them, but by showing her audience what she was talking about. And throughout her presentation, she used in a consistent fashion the same technique again and again and again. Now, this is great if you have the ability to lean on content that exists of YouTube. If she didn't have that luxury, she could have achieved the same thing by substituting the videos with her sketches. It's something that you may want to consider further down the track. Now, I'm going to pick on one of the ideas that she had as part of this project. And it was to basically engage with the community in a way that will make them experience a specific service. Check this out.
I rush off to the underground to catch a train. And then when I actually get here, I realise I've left my wallet behind and I haven't got any money to pay for my journey. Well, from today, that's no longer a problem in Moscow, because now there's another way to get your ticket. And this is how you do it. I agree, it's a little unorthodox, but I think I'll get there in the end if I've got the puff. Now, as you can see, I'm trying to do squats in this rather unusual Russian vending machine. And I've told that if I can do 30 squats in 2 minutes, then this machine will actually reward me with a free metro ticket that's worth 30 rubles. Now, this invention is the brainchild of the Russian Olympic Committee. And the whole idea is to encourage a sporty lifestyle for Russians ahead of the Sochi Games. Now, if you think you can fool this invention, think again, because there are special sensors here. And if it doesn't like any of my squats, perish the thought, of course, then it won't count them. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, there we go. I've done it. I'm going to get my ticket. Here it comes. Oh, the ticket. Thank you very much. Oh, mind you, was it worth it? Because I really haven't got the energy now.
Now, let's pause for a minute and go back to the brief. As you're all aware, you had to redesign your partner's commute. And here she is talking about virtual reality and very different sort of solutions that somehow relates or not to the brief itself. Why is that?
Is this still due to a part of the brainstorming phase where every idea is still really relevant because you just never know where it might lead?
Certainly. But slowly but surely, through her actual research and whilst talking to her client, she realized that there was an opportunity there to explore unconventional strategies and ideas like virtual reality, but doesn't have anything to do with the commute itself, similarly to your project, Mercy, in fact, where perhaps the real problem is not the commute. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Now, that's a really good segue here. Mercy, can you share your design process with everyone and what led you to do what you've done? Take in consideration that no one's seen your submission here, so.
Okay, well, what I had discussed with Hayley in class was a few options of trains and ferries and like all the very conventional methods. And quite frankly, the more I was researching, the more I was like, I'm actually not helping her at all. There was nothing that I was doing that was making her life better. And we had discussed online, but she didn't want to miss out on the in-class conversations. And I mean, really awkward, but I was just like in my zone doing a whole nother thing, and then bang, it just like hit me. I was like, hold on a second. We've got technology these days. Why am I even thinking that online is the only option? Like there's more than that now. So yeah, that's where I thought of virtual reality. And the more I researched it, it's actually not far off actually becoming a full-blown thing now.
Certainly, and in fact, that's something that I'm piloting behind the scenes. For those that will be around on campus next trimester and want to participate in some sort of a virtual reality pilot, do come and find me. I'll be looking for your help to refine that strategy as we grow as an organization. And if you want to be part of that, by all means, come and find me. We do have some amazing equipment that we've just received recently, and we're looking for guinea pigs to get their hands dirty and make all that happen. Going back to what Mercy said, it's obvious that sometimes your client thinks of specific solutions. You will experience that all the time as a designer, whether you're working for yourself or working in an office environment. And often what they deem being the solution is very far from what they really need. So it's important that you understand what the brief is, that you have the ability to analyze that brief and provide fit for purpose solutions to help your clients, whether that's designing a commute or not, or providing the ability to join the dots, talking about technology as an example, or simply saying, no, you don't need that. You need something completely different. Now, going back to this actual presentation here, another thing that I wanted to point is how Danielle, in that particular instance, captured and demonstrated the impact through her slides. She slowly but surely, after talking about the benefits of her proposal, she started to demonstrate how this will actually relate to her client. Let me jump through and I'll show you one slide in particular where she's in fact talking about the benefits. Sorry, I think I may have skipped that accidentally. There we go, going back. Now, here she starts talking about how her proposal will in fact save her a lot of time and she goes in and captures exactly how long it will save a client. 2 hours in total. That's extremely beneficial. Off she went and talks about the environmental impact of her solution and how altogether she's contributing to a better solution. And finally, she talks about how this could potentially help her client altogether. Now, what she did here is she closed the loop, having identified initially what matters for her client. She readdressed that as part of her conclusion and made sure that her client understood that the solution was fit for purpose. What else? And again, that's something that you may want to consider as a tool as part of your toolkit. Now, going back to the previous document, let's look at an extra submission. So, just bear with me. Let's have a look at Haley's. Haley, again, is a face-to-face student. Going back to full screen mode. Her presentation stood out in the way that she not only communicated her ideas, but also the way that she presented everything as part of this project. If you have a look at her slides, they're extremely simple, straight to the point. She didn't use a lot of words. Her delivery was extremely polished. And through the use of infographics, she was able to tell that story and engage with her audience in a meaningful fashion. Her points were succinct. She used her slides extremely well to not only communicate that story, but allow her actual audience to put themselves in the shoes of her end user. So she was extremely skilled in presenting the actual project, her findings, her solutions, and whatnot. The layout itself is extremely simple to follow. It's straight to the point, and she's used different sort of hierarchy in order to communicate effectively what she wanted to talk about. She added a lot of humor as well in her presentation, which always helps. People relate to you as a person, and she, in a very consistent manner, proposed a quite sophisticated solution from my point of view. We talked about her Photoshop skills and whether she could have put that image there in Photoshop and provide, in order to provide a much more realistic outcome. Not too fussed about the sketch, if I can be completely honest. It's from my point of view quite effective. It's not only communicating the concept itself, but it's giving you a sense of the look and feel. So I'm sure that as she progressed in the course, she'll be able to look back and, if required, Photoshop that image accordingly. Things that she took into consideration was actually beyond the brief, which again, she over-delivered, which was great. The reaction of her client was quite positive as well. And again, think about your ability to not only as a designer fulfill the brief, but also go above and beyond where applicable. Your client will remember you for that and will come back to you in the future, even in any sort of strategic or design related work. So something to, again, take into consideration. how are we doing with time? Let's have a quick look. Yeah, we have a lot of time. So let's look at another submission. This one here by Catherine. This submission is, from my point of view, something that is really achievable from a concept point of view, and if was implemented, will have a very positive impact on the people that commute to Collingwood, which is where our campus is located. Now, in Catherine's case, I believe that she created her presentation in PowerPoint. She went through and created a range of animations in PowerPoint, which unfortunately, in the process of saving her document as a PDF, got lost. So part of the reason I'm saying that here is go back to your assignments, look at the deliverables, look at the format required, and think very carefully about what sort of tools you may want to use in order to present and communicate your work. Now, in that particular instance, it was quite unfortunate that we didn't really see her presentation, her animation. The PDFs were great because it allowed her nevertheless to tell that story. But think about it, she would probably have spent hours behind the scenes fine-tuning those animations that she was not able to use. Going back to Danielle's presentation, the one that she created on Prezi, again, if that was a real client and they didn't have an internet connection, and again, the requirements were to be saved as a PDF document, she would have missed a key criteria. Now, in the context of your studies here, that's not a deal breaker. We improvised, we made it happen. But if you're working on a tender document for a massive project, and the deliverables are clearly, making reference of a PDF document as an example, there's no way around it. PDF document is what you need to submit. Okay? If you're working for any major client, it's quite likely that they will give you those sort of information. So keep an eye for those, and everything will be fine. Now, let's have a look at her proposal and presentation altogether. Now, here she started capturing who her client is. She essentially talked about the needs of her clients, including the commute itself. Those were, I believe, animated one way or another. And off she went and started talking about the pain points. All the information that she gathered basically evolved from a conversation that she had, from the information that she got from the questionnaire, and the ongoing conversation that happened in a variety of meetings. Pay particular attention here to the words that she used and the sentences. She's extremely good here at refining those sentences to only a couple of words with a view of being extremely effective. And she's done that across the board throughout her presentation. Her problem statement was extremely clear, so there's no way to kind of, go off track. And she, like some of her peers, used a variety of infographics to very effectively communicate what was going on. She created a table to capture each and every of the ideas that she had, and in order to review them. Now, as an end user, if you're looking at this presentation, it's obvious what the actual solution is, right? Something to take into consideration further down the track. Now, the actual project that she worked on has got huge potential. It constitutes of a combination of parking sensors fitted throughout the Collingwood area, paired with the development of an application for the people to get a sense of what's available and what's not in real time. So hypothetically, if someone was to drive through the streets of Collingwood, they'd be able to jump on their smartphone, get a sense of what's available, and book it in advance. So there's no issues around going around the block for hours trying to find a parking spot. You'll be able to very quickly get a sense of what's free and drive straight to that parking. There's a few projects like that that were piloted in various parts of Australia. That said, nothing really took off from those pilots, and there's certainly opportunities there to realize this project. She even went through and prototyped what that app may look like using her Photoshop skills. So again, nothing major here. It's just a copy and paste of her original map, just to, again, better communicate her ideas, her plans, and whatnot. She concluded through talking about, how this would potentially help everyone, and that was the end of her presentation. Now, I'm going to pause for a minute and get some initial thoughts from you all. So, any feedback, any comments? Who wants to start?
Yeah, just looking at the presentations of other people is definitely made me rethink the way I present some of mine as well. So it's good to see other people's how well they streamline things, and the whole use of graphics instead of putting down words. I think that was really nice, that one there.
Great. Something that I've noticed across the board when it comes to the report is most of you created amazing sketches and documented through your presentation each and every of the stages of this project. That said, when it comes to the report, most of you only submitted a Word document. You're in a creative field. Your report doesn't necessarily have to be plain text. Leverage each and every of the sketches that you've created for this project and other projects in the future in order to better communicate your ideas, your concepts, and whatnot. The other things that I noticed in some instances was some of the presentation didn't quite align with the report, or the other way around. Things such as references, things such as things that you've identified for talking with your client should be consistent. So make sure that you go back and look at either your presentation or your reports in the future to make sure that this speaks to someone as one. Any other comments?
The only thing I was going to say, I really liked Hayley's presentation, similar to I think was Mercy said before. Just in terms of streamlining, it's made me realise the caliber. I was just writing in mind, yeah, this is what I want to do, but actually methodically stepping it out in and it looking seamless, I think is the way to go next time. So yeah, thank you for showing them. I think it just shows us what everyone else is capable of doing and what people are doing, which makes us kind of think outside the box.
Just give me 1 sec. Sorry for that. Perks of being on campus on a Tuesday evening is that I get to interact with the cleaners. So apologies, we were just firing the vacuum cleaner behind me. So sorry for that. Kate, you were talking about Hayley's presentation in comparison to yours. Something worth taking into consideration here is that you're all one who never tried to, I guess, convey elements of who you are and how you think throughout your presentation. Part of me showing you those 3 examples is not to say, go do this, right? Don't forget who you are, don't forget what your strengths are, and in fact, leverage those at every corner where possible, right? What you've done, and similarly to everyone else's work, is absolutely fantastic. And throughout the coming trimesters, what we're going to try to do is leverage your voice in a way that, in your own way, you'll be documenting your work, you'll be communicating your ideas, and so forth. Those are only 3 out of 30 odd examples, right? If we had more time, perhaps we would have gone through more of those. Fortunately, we don't have that luxury. That said, if anyone wants to connect and explore at a later stage more submissions, by all means, let's do that, and let's pick up that conversation offline. Now, we all have a pretty decent break ahead of us. So here's a couple of things that, if you have the time, courage, I would highly recommend you explore. Now, there's a few tutorials here around tutorials, short courses, depends how you want to call them, around design thinking and how to improve your creative skills. Not suggesting that you go and watch all these. It'd be great if you could, but at least try to go back to at least those 6 points. And if elements of design thinking is on your list of things to improve, by all means, go back and revisit some of that content. Same for creativity, general skills, and all this. Technical skills. There's a range of amazing lynda.com tutorials that relates to Photoshop and InDesign. Again, as you progress through your course, you will pick up additional skills when it comes to those software. But if you're at the end of the day dying and wants to get your hands dirty, by all means, don't wait for us. You know what to do. Just jump online and at your own pace, engage with that content. Finally, for those that want to get out and have the luxury to either visit the NGV or other sort of exhibition, there's some amazing things happening in our own backyard. By all means, get out and try to see as many exhibitions as possible. Remember, interior designers not only get inspiration from other industries, in fact, from my point of view, this is the only way to really stand out as designers. So something taken into consideration. If you want to escape Melbourne, WA, Adelaide, or other locations, consider visiting Sydney between the end of May and mid-June for Vivid, which is a lighting festival. If you can't make it this year, perhaps think ahead. Happens on a yearly basis. So, negotiate some time off, start saving. Whatever your situation is, I highly recommend that you try to either attend this lighting festival this year or in the very near future. If you want to stay indoors, jump online, jump on Netflix. I talked about the Abstract series of documentaries previously. If you don't have a Netflix account, just pretend that you're interested, register for free, watch through the whole thing over the weekend. It will be worth it. Finally, we talked about Gallup's strength over the last few weeks. Some of you already connected with me and want to find out more. Use the break as an opportunity to reconnect. I'm going to make myself available just to have one-on-one conversation with each and every one of you. I've got an email, in fact, saved in my draft folder, ready to go. I'm just waiting for the right time to send that your way. So again, keep an eye for your inbox. If you're dying to find out more, by all means, let's connect sooner than later. and one who never use that to not only impact your strength, but put an action plan together to support you get one step closer to your course career goals. So that's it for me. It's been a pleasure having you for this subject over the last 12 weeks. If you have any questions that relates to the last assignment, by all means, stay online. I'll be more than happy to address those with you all. If you don't, well, enjoy the rest of your evening. And again, it's been a pleasure having you over the last 12 weeks or so. Keep an eye for your inbox. Our team, our student services team, will get in touch with you in the very near future regarding trimester 2 and the timetable. And again, if I can do anything to help you over the next few days, do connect and we'll just go from there.
Thanks, Bruno.
Thanks, Bruno. If no one else had a question, I just had one quick question. I have emailed support today, but I know they're probably really busy after the long weekend. Just to get onto linden.com and to access the locked videos, how do we go about doing that?
Very good question. Let me help you with this. Now, first of all, the thing that you need to know about lynda.com is you need to go through My CallOuts first. So you need to go through what we refer to internally as the single sign-on. If you're ever struggling with lynda.com, make your way to My CallOuts and navigate your way to Library, followed by lynda.com. That should give you access to the whole platform and allow you to browse through any tutorial. If you've gone through the single sign-on and have access Canvas, you should be able to simply click on any of the links provided within Canvas itself and jump straight into it.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really good. Thank you.
Give it a go, and if you're still struggling, shoot me a line. I'm usually pretty good at getting back to people via email. So if you're not getting the sort of response that you're after from the service desk, let me know. And if I can help or escalate that, I'll be more than happy to do.
Thank you. No, that's okay. I only asked them today anyway, so that's fine. Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to stop recording here and take any questions that you may have regarding the assignments.